All right, NBA trade deadline. It's coming at us.
It's not today.
No,
Just
it's
for
not
people
today.
worried, it's not today.
Yeah, no, we have approximately 50 hours.
We have 2,900 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. 2,986 minutes and 20 seconds from right now until this happens. We just wanted to pop up here because we have a plan on Thursday to do like a 2-hour live show right around the trade deadline. We got to figure out exactly what time that's going to start, either 1:30 or 2 o'clock. But we're going to bleed past the trade deadline because a lot of the time there is news that ends up trickling in beyond just that 3 o'clock window. But with that being said, we figured Tony and I...
Did we get him?
Not yet.
Not
buddy.
yet. Hey,
All
there's
right,
Chris.
working on it.
See you guys later.
All right. So no Chris today, but we'll have Zaz with us tomorrow.
Yep.
The two of us are going to talk through this today, everything that's going on in the NBA trade deadline, to set you guys up for the fact that we will be back here for a 2-hour show, I think with Dan, definitely with Amin, going through everything that's going on at the trade deadline. So there's a lot. As you can see on the bottom bar right now, I mean, Giannis to the Heat is a possibility. But Giannis everywhere is either a possibility or an improbability at the moment because the reports today have kind of tried to throw...
There's been a lot of weird reports today.
There's been a lot of weird reports every day. This is one of the strangest deadlines I've encountered in that it feels like not only is there a lack of understanding about who is truly available, but there are more names than ever, just in terms of stature of name. Like, we've had all of these conversations. We talked today about James Harden, about Anthony Davis. We brought up Donovan Mitchell potentially not extending in Cleveland. LeBron James got brought up yesterday. Kat, Giannis. We haven't even mentioned Ja Morant. He's like an afterthought in this trade deadline.
I want to say this right now. He does not get moved before the...
You don't think he gets moved?
No,
Okay.
at all. He does not get moved before the deadline, and I don't think he gets moved after the deadline in the summer.
You think
either.
he ends up just
I
staying
think
in
he's
Memphis
just,
for the long haul?
I think he's just stuck in Memphis.
until it all ends?
Until all these massive domino pieces end up going first, he is like the back of the line. There is nobody who is in front of him. If you talk about James Harden, he gets moved before Ja. If you talk about Anthony Davis, even though he's made of glass what it seems like the last 2 or 3 or 4, 5, 6, 10 years, he's going to get moved before Ja.
Yeah.
Who else are we talking about? If there's a move where the Knicks want to get off a
Harden.
Cat, even if they don't get Giannis, if they
Right.
just want to get off a Cat's salary and just change up exactly what's going on in the locker room, like, he gets moved before Ja. Like, we're looking at one of the most depreciated assets almost in NBA history.
It's so bizarre, and I think the Trae Young trade obviously has to do with that. It's intriguing to see what his value is because of his contract, like, and the difference between what he and, say, a Tyler Hero, who is another, like, smaller scoring guard, but who only has 1 year left on the deal, to where if you're a team that's rebuilding and he's a 26-year-old all-star, you could extend him, or you could look at him and go, okay, that expires, and we see where he goes from there. I do want to say that there's people asking, like, where does Ja get? Well, first, how good does Riley smell? Amazing. Where does Ja get moved? Like, where does he end up? As you're saying, I think the strongest likelihood is that he stays in Memphis, but I would imagine at this point, Ja is one of those pieces where Memphis might have like tentative deals in place with teams that are in the Giannis hunt, and
That if
that are
they
waiting.
understand, hey, if we don't land Giannis, we'll make a move.
We'll
for
go
Ja.
back to this conversation, and this is sort of the tentative framework. Like, the Heat could very well be one of those teams where the Heat look at their expiring money and turn around. Now, that's if Giannis gets moved elsewhere.
Right.
Because if Giannis is still available going into the offseason, the Heat will not make that Ja move because they won't put themselves in the position to not have movable assets. But I think what we want to go through here before we start diving into Harden and Davis and all of these other things is Giannis is obviously the key piece. And I think we'd like to talk about the Heat element of it, but there have really been 4 main teams that have been out there until all of a sudden today, Cleveland becomes a part of the conversation, and we'll get to what they're doing in a minute. But it's been the Knicks, it's been the Warriors, it's been the Timberwolves, and it's been the Heat. And there have been all sorts of different reports coming out, right? The Warriors, first it was, hey, they're willing to trade anybody outside of Steph Curry. Then it becomes Draymond Green is the more likely piece to be moved, and that Milwaukee would be trying to shop Draymond Green elsewhere. What sort of value does that have? Probably not a lot. There's Minnesota, who needs to make a variety of moves. There's the Knicks that
also need to make a
variety of the moves, and then there's the Heat. So let's start here, Tony. I want your thoughts on as of today. There was a report, I believe it was from Sam Amick, that said, or no, sorry, it was Mark Stein that I'm looking at here, that the Heat and the Timberwolves are believed to be Giannis's preferred trade destination. So let's start with the Wolves. What do you think the likelihood is, or what do you sort of think of the position that they're in to try to acquire Giannis if he's interested in pairing with Anthony Edwards?
Right. I said this on my show at the crossover with Keon Dooling, where I feel like any team that does not have the trade assets when it comes to the picks, right, and they're going to have to start like chop shopping their roster to be like, all right, Dante DiVincenzo, what can we get for him? Naz Reid, what can we get for him? Rudy Gobert. Like, you start looking across all of the guys that you've got on your roster and saying, all right, if we move this guy here, we can get a couple picks there. I'm trying to think of what Minnesota has as far as picks.
Yeah, Minnesota doesn't have anything to offer in terms of picks. What they would have to do is
they traded 5 for Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
And now,
I
when
think
do those kick back in?
The position that they're in, I believe, in order to sort of make things work here, would be using Julius Randle more likely than not as the salary filler. Jaden McDaniels is their most marketable piece,
right?
And maybe moving McDaniel, getting a third. They're going to need to get obviously a third, if not a fourth team involved. The Heat might need to do the same thing, but Jaden McDaniels maybe to a place like Portland, that can allow Milwaukee to get some of their picks back and the right to their pick swaps that had existed with Portland in that Damian Lillard trade, seems like a route that might at least get those conversations going.
So looking at Fanspo right now, they've got their 28, 29. Excuse me, they got 28. They've got 30, but San Antonio will receive the most and more favorable of the 2030 first-round pick, Dallas's first-round pick, and Minnesota's first-round pick. So whoever's better there, which will probably be Dallas, the more favorable of those picks in 2030. Maybe not. But the point of the chop shopping the roster is you look around and you're like, all right, we're going to have to send so much out to try and get assets back that Milwaukee actually wants, right?
Yeah.
If Milwaukee is really serious about blue chip young prospect and a ton of picks and a couple of guys that you can build around that are young, you look at Minnesota's roster, they don't have that.
It doesn't seem to be the place.
The one guy that they have is the guy that they will never trade, which is Anthony Edwards.
Yep.
Everybody else is kind of an okay role player, a good, like Jaden McDaniels is good, but I don't think he fits blue chip young player status.
No, and I mean, look, they have a couple of prospects that they've drafted in the last couple of years. Maybe Milwaukee looks at those guys and values them higher than guys like Kuminga and Podziemski, or even Kel'el Ware and Kasper Siakachonis and some of those young guys with the Heat. I don't see it that way personally, but there are so many different moves to be made. And by the way, like, it might not even be the young guys on that team. Maybe it's moving the pieces that they have to teams that want to compete now and would then in turn be willing to trade some of their younger projects in order to take in money, maybe send expiring deals back out, those prospects out to Milwaukee. Like, it would take moving heaven and earth.
Right.
And that does make things more complicated, which is why for so long, despite what the conversation has been around Minnesota and Miami, Golden State has been considered. And so when you look at the Golden State package and you see, okay, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, probably Moses Moody, and their haul of picks, which is at the most, if they decide to do all of it, 4 first-round picks, 3 pick swaps in a situation where
down the road they're going to be bad.
Maybe
in a post-Steph world,
or they're a team that's built around Giannis. Like, we don't know the answer to that if Giannis extends.
Sure, but then what assets do they have to be a good team post-Giannis? We're looking at exactly what rosters look like with Giannis built around them when nothing else is around that.
So what you're saying there is that really those picks later, the 2030, the 2032, those are the picks that become valuable if you believe that Giannis is going to extend and Golden State is not going to be able to put a good team around him, which is interesting, right? Because then would Giannis just find himself in a position where he wants to demand another trade?
Of course.
Is that what you want if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo? Probably not.
No.
Which is part of why we've seen all of these reports that have said he's sort of wary about not just going and playing in Steph's shadow for his franchise, a franchise that's won a lot. He doesn't want to be perceived like Kevin Durant. And actually, Dan was the first person that I remember bringing this up probably a couple of weeks ago, which was the idea that Giannis was a guy who was critical of Kevin Durant. It was part of the reason he's not the guy who wants to like demand a trade, because he doesn't want to be perceived as this guy that's going title hunting in a way that James Harden or Kevin Durant are perceived.
Or LeBron James.
Or LeBron James. There ends up being a conversation about, does he even want to extend there? And then in turn, what is the offer that Golden State is truly willing to give up? Are they giving you all of those picks? Like, if you look at it as their whale offer, their best possible offer, how do you perceive that if you're Milwaukee, who has their pick for this year but not moving forward?
The picks are the crown jewel of what their offer is, right? Because if you look at their players, I don't want an old Draymond Green, right? Like, I don't want Project Moses Moody. I don't want a guy that you said didn't have any demand in the trade market in Jonathan Kuminga. I don't want a guy who's an okay point guard. Like, Podziemski's fine. Right? Like, he's a good backup point guard. Like, he's okay.
Serviceable.
But you look at all those guys and you're like, all right, I know that's not why I'm making this trade. I'm making the trade because I'm gambling and I'm betting that in a post-Steph world, which, do we have 2 years left of Steph? Do we have 3 years left of Steph?
Say it's 2 years.
He's going to turn 38 years old this year, right? So I don't have Steph. He's done everything. He's won the titles. He's made the money. He's the face of the franchise. I don't see him running around at 41 years old trying to catch Rob Dillingham, right, and try to run around with him, right? Trying to run around with Tyrese Maxey,
right?
Like, he's done it all. Why continue when you don't need to?
Yeah,
that's one. And at that point, Giannis is going to look around and say, okay, I'm just in Milwaukee West now. Like, there's nothing for me to do here because we don't have any picks. We don't have any players. We have no leverage to go out and get players because we have no assets.
Yep.
So, like, if I'm Giannis, I'm looking at that situation. I'm like, oh, my God, this is, like, the worst-case scenario because at least here, the asset is me.
Right.
Over there, I'm going to be 34, 35 years old. Do I have the calf injury? Is it still lingering? God forbid it turns into something worse. Something else happens. We don't have the pieces to go out and get what we need to be championship ready, and especially in the West, dude.
Yeah.
The Thunder are not going anywhere. The Spurs are not going anywhere.
Not at all.
Right? Like, the Rockets have
Lakers
young pieces
around Luka.
The Lakers around Luka. Denver's not going anywhere.
Right.
Like, I said this yesterday on the show, on my show on Crossover. Denver is my dark horse to win the West this season.
Yeah, because if they get healthy, they have every opportunity to.
They haven't been healthy.
That's a great take.
They haven't been healthy, and they're the third seed in the best Western Conference we've seen in a decade.
Yeah, that's a great take.
Jokic hasn't played in a month.
Yeah.
Peyton Watson's been incredible.
Yep.
Like, they don't have Christian Brown. Aaron Gordon
There's
hasn't
an
been
argument to be made on that.
They're amazing.
Jokic missing time has almost been a benefit to
Of
them,
course.
and that all of these other guys are getting that
Of
free reign. And just to sort of reset for everybody who's just tuned in, this is bonus show. This is not hour two.
Just
this
hoops
is not
talk, baby.
post-game.
Just hoops talk.
We're just talking hoops. We're going to be here for about a half hour today. We're going to try to do this again tomorrow in some capacity, whether it's in studio or not. And then right around the trade deadline on Thursday afternoon, we'll pop back up live for a full trade deadline show where we'll be breaking down everything that does or doesn't happen around the trade deadline. We've got all these different names that we can get into, and we can go from there. So,
by the way, for the chat, really quick,
Yeah.
I want him to put some questions and some stuff in the chat so we can do later on. Once we're done, kind of having our Giannis conversation, all these different things. I want to answer stuff for the chat.
Absolutely. So. I want to get into.
So the Warriors offer shit.
Yeah, I mean, let's
just
be real about it. I think that at this point, when you look at the Warriors' offer, it's a combination of things. It's either a team that they get to build around Giannis into the future, that if you trust the Warriors organization, which you should, just like you trust the Heat, just like you trust the Spurs, they're not going to put a bad team around Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? And so those picks that everybody is clamoring for, it seems as though they'd all be back end of the first round picks, if you believe Giannis is the transformational talent that he is. That in turn means, why are you doing this trade?
Right.
Why are you centering it around picks if you don't think that you're building a young core? And this is where I want to go to the Heat side of this. Because I am of the belief, and I think it's become clear in the reporting that's out there. I mentioned Sam Amick before. His report in the last hour or so was that both Golden State and Minnesota have sitting offers with the Milwaukee Bucks,
Mm-hmm.
but haven't received a counter. And that Golden State is of the perception that their offer is essentially being shopped around. What
That's
that
smart, by the way.
right, which is exactly how it should go
100%.
by Milwaukee.
Just in life, right?
Yeah.
When you're buying a car,
Yep.
what do? You go to one dealership and you're like, all right, what do you give me?
Yep.
All right, I'll give you this car for $525. Perfect. All right, thank you. Can I get that in writing? Excellent. What's the interest rate? Perfect.
Yep.
All right, I go to the other dealership. Hey, by the way, X amount of people down the street are giving me this car for $525, and
Yes.
X percent interest rate. Can you beat that? Oh no, we can't. They're giving you such a great deal. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
that's
think
how life works.
I think that's the reality, and so they're being shopped around, and what that indicates to me is that this Heat deal is probably in a pretty interesting space because, look, the reality is no matter what you think of Kel'el Ware as a guy who's played a certain amount of minutes, he is the highest ceiling of any of the prospects you're being offered. I'm not saying he's the most complete player at the moment.
I agree. He's the best project potential of all the players that are in any of the trade talks. And we on
that
this
have
show,
been mentioned thus far.
Yes, we on this show 2 months ago had a conversation of if you were redrafting the 24 draft, who would go number one? Obviously, I
no, it's
won the
Stephon
argument.
Castle.
I won the argument. Stephon
Yeah,
Castle.
and
but
it's Castle, and then it's Ware though. It's still the case,
right, and it could be Ware still long term. Right,
Right.
It's Stephon
And he's
Castle doesn't look like a good shooter right now, which is kind of a big deal.
Yes, and
He's shooting 28% from the three, but whatever.
He's
That's
a
not the point.
21-year-old kid who can do everything on the floor. Like, and I do want to say in terms of the Heat stuff, like this is how the Heat do it. Like they break down these prospects to build them up. Especially when they don't know if they're ready for the big time. Bam Adebayo is one of Eric Spoelstra's favorite players that he's ever coached. And Bam Adebayo went through the same thing, where he was playing, and then he wasn't playing at all. And he was playing on scout team at times. And he's told stories about how during his rookie year, he literally hated Spo. And Udonis Haslem had to be the one to pull him aside and say, like, no, dude, you got to trust this. You got to trust this guy. He's doing what's best for you. And ultimately, they've grown to have this unbelievable relationship. He's the captain. He's the culture carrier, all those things. That's what they're trying to do right now with Kel'el Ware. And Kel'el Ware may very well stay past this deadline. And all of the things that Spo is doing, he's doing it regardless of whether the deadline exists or not. One thing Eric Spoelstra is great at is looking at the team
Tunnel
he
vision,
has,
yeah.
and he stays locked in on, this is my group, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make these players better and win as many games as possible.
Right.
And so that's what's happening right now. Kel'el Ware is the highest level ceiling that exists within this potential trade for Milwaukee. Tyler Hero, whatever knocks you might have on his defensive game, on his durability, Tyler Hero is a 25-year-old, about to turn 26-year-old, now former all-star guard, who only has 1 year left on his deal, is from Milwaukee, and as this team rebuilds, because they're about to be able to have, more likely than not, a top 8 or better pick this upcoming NBA draft.
And anything can happen in the NBA draft. Obviously, we talked about it last year, where Dallas was at 11, where the Heat would have been if they would have lost in the play-in game. Another place, again, I was not wrong. I was just early.
Still think it might all be rigged, and they just gave Dallas that pick because they moved Luka, and maybe that can happen for Milwaukee as well if they move Giannis to the place that the NBA wants.
But, yes.
So, when you can end up in that lottery,
Right.
funny things happen with
Yes.
ping pong balls.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you got the number one pick, and
Yep.
A.J. Debance is now the best player in Milwaukee's history going forward.
Well, and
Oh
by
my
the
God,
way,
this is incredible.
Milwaukee's in the position where what they get is the lesser of two picks between New Orleans and Milwaukee, and both of those teams are bad, right? Like that's where they're at in terms of pick swap. So like New Orleans is likely going to be the reason I say they get their own pick in Milwaukee is because New Orleans is even worse, and so likely they pick before them. But you're going to have a young piece to build around there. If you added Kel'el Ware to that, if you added, say, Kasparas Yakachonis, the 19-year-old point guard who was just a first-round pick as well, you're adding 2 21 and under first-round picks, a first-round pick this year, multiple firsts in the future in 2030 and 32, where, look, you know how I feel about what your future looks like if you're the Miami Heat, if you have Giannis and Bam. But if you're the Bucks and you're banking on the idea that 4 or 5 years down the road, Giannis doesn't look the same way,
right.
Those are the picks that you were looking at as valuable from Golden State as well. The difference being that Bam would be there with Giannis and Steph would not be there in Golden State. You're adding to a core there, and Tyler Hero if you want to extend him, actually makes a lot of sense as a guy that can be, as crazy as it is now, the veteran on that team that every night when he's out there can go get you 20, 25 points, which is really important to have when you're building a young core. You need that sort of...
You need something.
You need an innings eater at the very least. And if
you
you
need the CJ McCollum if you're Washington.
Right. And by the way,
Jordan
if you
Poole.
have Tyler at his best, like that's a really effective and efficient scorer. He's not a guy who needs 20 shots to go get 25 points. Like he does it pretty efficiently. He's a really good three-point shooter, which can help if you get a big man, all of those things. I look at what this Heat offer is to Milwaukee, and to me, given the moving parts, given what Tyler Hero is at $30 million, what Andrew Wiggins is potentially if they're to move him at $28 million, Terry Rozier at $26 million.
Which I feel, and again, I don't know the reporting on this, and I'd like to see some of the people kind of dig into what the possibilities are. The fact that the CBA was written, in a way that Rozier can still get his money.
Yeah.
Like that tells me that there may be somewhere in play where if he is part of a trade, the NBA is not going to say no.
No, yesterday it was ruled in a court that he is going to have his money unlocked.
That's big.
And that feels like he's definitely going to be a piece in this.
It was either child abuse or domestic violence or something like that you would not be able to get the money.
The only reasons you don't get the money and that it stays in...
and I'm sure that the owners are going to be working very hard and very diligently in the next CBA to add gambling to that.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. That's a very good point.
So with that feels, again, nobody's reported it. I haven't seen anybody talk about it. To me, just from a 30,000-foot view, that feels like that contract now is tradable. It should be in play because if it's caught up in escrow and, we can't figure it out. Oh, my God. Perfect. Hey, you got the money, buddy. Here it is. Miami Heat, you can make the trade with this contract because now it is not null and voided. It is ready to go.
Yeah,
it is being paid out.
I think the reality here is like, look, there's a strong opportunity that Giannis doesn't get moved at the deadline. That Milwaukee decides we want to move this into the summer. That they value the picks that will exist with the Heat further into the future because the Heat can be at 3 or 4 picks in the summer. I believe if they're in the position, they can draft the 2026 pick for Milwaukee and then move multiple firsts into the future that I believe would be 29, 31, and 32, or rather 29, 31, and 33, along with this 26. That would be the position they're in. Different expiring money than Terry Rozier, but there's all of these things that the Heat can do that probably puts in the middle of an off season the Wolves in a better spot, the Knicks in a better spot. Like there's a lot more clarity than doing this mid-season. There's a good shot that Giannis doesn't get moved at all. What I'm saying to you is that if Giannis is trying to force their hand right now behind the scenes, and there is one deal that they need to accept, I do believe that the strongest likelihood comes from Miami, whether that is a straight-up move where Milwaukee is doing the heavy lifting on the back end, where it's, hey, we're taking on Tyler and Wiggins and we're moving them in the future and that type of stuff. Or maybe Milwaukee is looking at the Heat and saying, hey, we're getting 4 picks from the Warriors. Find a way. Go unlock a pick from Charlotte that gets you to 3. Go move either Wiggins or Tyler. We don't really care. Move one of them to be able to get that 4th pick. And then we want Ware, and we want the Rozier expiring money, and we want maybe Kasper Chakachonis or Jaime Jaquez or whatever combination of young players that they want. We need these picks from you because we like building it around Ware and whatever other prospects, but we would rather have that than these players for the future. And if that's the case, what I can imagine is at this present moment, as those offers have been brought back to Miami, as Pat Riley made the joke to us on our show earlier when Chris and I were at the Heat Gala, like that's Andy Ellisberg, man. He's the one out there communicating with these other teams, trying to figure out the finances and the draft picks that work in terms of but figuring out the salary cap and getting things to go from there. But I do want to move on.
Really quick though, if you're Milwaukee, wouldn't you rather do the heavy lifting than go get something that you didn't really want in the first place? Right? Like, if you're Milwaukee, give me the players that can turn into picks, and then I'll go shop and I'll do my due diligence on what the picks I want are.
Yeah.
Because if all of a sudden the Heat go to whatever team.
Yeah.
And then Milwaukee's like, I don't really like that pick. Right? Like, I would have done this.
Yep.
For me, it's if I'm Milwaukee, I'm looking at, all right, give me the players like the Wiggins, like the heroes I can turn into expiring contracts and turn into first-round picks. Let me do that work.
Yep.
Right? Let's figure out exactly, once the dust settles, once I know what I have as far as players that are going to play for the team or assets that I can go build around, allow me to now do that work.
And by the way, there's no saying that Horst, the GM of Milwaukee, isn't actually also kind of working those phones right now of like, hey, if the Heat gave you Hero, what would that look like?
Right.
Because maybe those are the things that they can counter and go from there. But one question that I've seen on here, does Jeremy have a hair system? No.
Pull it.
Like you can. No, this is my hair. I just have luscious, thick, curly hair. So thanks for that one.
That's funny.
In terms of basketball, I do want to just touch upon a few of these things, and then we'll wrap up and get more into some of it tomorrow, because within the next 24 hours there will be.
We
all
can both
sorts
agree
of
the
updates.
Knicks feel like a very, very far distant fourth or fifth of whatever the teams are.
Yes, amongst those 4 teams that we've talked about. Now, I think Cleveland getting into this is really interesting.
That just doesn't make sense.
No,
Especially why
unless
would
they're
Milwaukee
willing-
trade him to Cleveland?
The only way I would see it is if they're willing actually to move Evan Mobley, and a variety of draft picks and go from there, because theoretically Milwaukee looks at that as like, all right, here's a different centerpiece that we can build around. I don't see it personally.
How old is Mobley?
I just don't see
26,
it.
27?
He's pretty young. But that's the only way I can see that happening. I think it would be, given their contract situation, what the contract situation is with Cleveland, I think it would be much more likely to see either James Harden or Anthony Davis moved there. Windhorst said that they've checked in on Giannis and Anthony Davis. He said that they're concerned about whether or not Donovan Mitchell will extend. And Chris Haynes reported that Cleveland and the Clippers are like working, I don't know if he used the word expediently, on trying to make sure that they get a deal done on the Darius Garland front quickly. They want to do it quickly.
That part is so weird to me. If you're the Clippers, and obviously you know this was your best shot as far as the roster construction that you had to make some noise in the playoffs. Now it was last year and this year. And obviously now with the aspiration stuff pending, with now this report that James Harden is basically, his course has run up now with the Clippers. It's like, why would Garland be the guy that you're going after, knowing that he was hurt last year. They tried to have surgery, didn't work to fix his toe. He's playing with a steel plate in his shoe to play what he's playing now, which is also hurt. Like, all of these different things are screaming, telling you, like, hey, this guy may be too much damaged goods.
Yeah.
Like, you need to get something better than that. If you're the Clippers, especially knowing what kind of salary cap hell you may be in the next couple of years with no picks. It's like, Garland's not the guy I'm going after. If I'm the Clippers, I'm going, I'll give you James Harden and I'll give you something else. You give me Donovan Mitchell.
I don't know if that ends up happening. The Donovan Mitchell part of this is really interesting all of a sudden. I find fascinating that yesterday the report comes out that LeBron and the Lakers are done with each other and want to part ways this summer. And all of a sudden today, Cleveland's blowing everything up in pursuit of players that LeBron is interested in playing with. It feels like that type of reunion is entirely possible this summer. And so,
but then what are you doing if you're the Cavs? Just trying to traffic on LeBron's back for his last year.
If you still have
their best shot was last year,
but if you still
they won
have
64 games,
I agree. But if you maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is
quiet quit.
Is not quiet quit, but if you can
loud quit.
Yeah, if you
like, we're not good enough to compete in an East that doesn't have Jason Tatum this season.
If you can,
so we're blowing it up.
If you can keep, let me make the argument on their behalf. If you can keep Evan Mobley in this mess, if you can,
24 by the way, turning 25.
That's what I'm saying. A really good young piece. If you're moving theoretically, if you're getting off of Jared Allen's contract, if you're moving Donovan Mitchell, which would get you a haul back. You're moving Darius Garland for Harden straight up. For that matter, you might gain assets in a move for Anthony Davis. What you're actually doing is setting yourself up for like a 1-year F-it, let's ride on a Harden, LeBron,
Davis.
Anthony Davis, Evan
Oh
Mobley
my God.
thing.
Oh my God.
And you're also setting yourself up well for the future because you would be acquiring assets in all of those moves. That's the argument of what you would be making.
How? Assets how?
You'd be getting assets in return for Donovan Mitchell if you were blowing that up and
Sure.
moving him, whether it was right now or in the offseason. You might be gaining an asset alongside Anthony Davis because
You think
Dallas wants to move off that money.
You think Dallas would move off the money, knowing the situation that they're in draft pick wise? They would attach a pick to Anthony Davis.
It is tough. No, it is tough. No, didn't Dallas gained picks? No, they gained a pick from the Lakers.
Yes, but the problem is, I think in some of their deals, they're missing a couple first.
I think there are a couple spots. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just trying to look at it and say, how can Cleveland justify what it is that they're doing?
Like they need to trade Anthony Davis for picks, not attach a pick to him.
Sure. And maybe that's what ends up happening. Maybe Cleveland is willing to hemorrhage on the short term, knowing that in the long term they're gonna maybe move Donovan Mitchell. But the Harden for Garland thing seems to be gaining steam. That's really interesting to me because I don't know how they defend anybody with James Harden and Donovan Mitchell playing alongside each other.
Backcourt.
Again, it indicates to me that maybe they really are concerned about losing Donovan Mitchell for the future. And if they have a team that's built around the idea of a scoring guard, that's something they need to do. I will also say, like, Donovan Mitchell is pretty damn good when he's playing off ball. Like, he needs the ball at moments, but he's a really good off ball too. And offensively, that team would be dynamite with those two guys. James Harden is still a tremendous scorer.
Sure.
The
and
Anthony
he's a great
Davis
lob thrower too.
Yeah, the Anthony Davis element is really interesting because like he could end up being anywhere. I'm seeing Shams Bomb in here, so inside the chat. So I want to make sure we haven't missed anything. Do we have a Shams Bomb? Let's make sure. Wow, we do. Memphis is trading Jaren Jackson Jr. to Utah.
Wow. Okay, I have it here. You ready? Memphis.
Wow.
The Memphis Grizzlies are trading star forward Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, Jock Landale, and Vince Williams Jr. to the Utah Jazz for Walter Clayton Jr., Kyle Anderson, Slow-Mo, Taylor Hendricks, George Niang, and 3 firsts. So there you go. Ja is definitely not getting traded. It is Jaren Jackson Jr. that nobody saw coming. It felt like
That's crazy.
when the whole Ja situation was happening with the front office that they chose Jaren Jackson Jr.
It did
to be
feel
the
like
centerpiece
that.
of Memphis, and now they ship him off before the deadline to Utah. What is Utah doing?
Wow. Well, I find this interesting because I'm going to go look at Utah's draft pick capital.
What is Utah doing?
Wow, this is
Interesting.
going to make things really interesting. Because, by the way, also, you say that this means no, they're not going to move Ja Morant.
I'm saying first. Jaren Jackson Jr.
Right.
gets moved first before Ja Morant.
Shocking.
Which is crazy.
Maybe it means they're also going to do that. Like, maybe they're blowing the whole thing up and they're trying to just get money off the books, gain as many picks as they can,
And just be terrible.
for a little bit. I mean, that's fascinating. I'm really intrigued to see what ends up happening here. I will say, Utah, right? Like, Utah
They're kind of a weird team.
bizarre here,
Yeah.
right? But like, I think the emergence of Keontae George
Mm-hmm.
has been a huge key in all of this as to why they were willing to go cash in, because having him with Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr., that's like kind of a fun little core, and you obviously have Ace Bailey as well. And I'm trying to look at what their future draft capital was because it's Danny Ainge, which means they have a ton of picks available. They had, I don't know what picks these are going to end up being, but just going into this right now, they had a pick this year with Minnesota and Cleveland having swap rights. They had their own pick next year and a Lakers pick that's top 4 protected. They have a first and 28, a first and 29, a first and 30, 2 firsts and 31, and a first and 32. So it's like they had a surplus of draft picks. All they're going to end up with here is their own core and still really have draft picks available to move as well as a young guy. I mean, it's shocking to me that Utah got in on this. I can't wait to see.
I didn't think there were going to be buyers at the deadline.
And this is interesting. Bobby Marks points out Memphis now has 13 first-round picks in the next 7 years. They're tied with Brooklyn and Oklahoma City. And now this is where it becomes interesting, too, because we were talking the other day.
Just for people that don't know, that are watching and maybe haven't been keeping up with the NBA and kind of where everything looks like from a standings perspective. The Jazz are 20 games under 500.
Yeah, it's insane.
The Jazz are 15-35. And they just became buyers at the deadline for an all-star forward.
This is like one of the more startling random
If he
trades.
wouldn't have got hurt last year, Jaren
deal.
Jackson Jr. would have been Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Evan Mobley ended up winning it because Wemby got hurt with the blood clot.
So
but
crazy.
Jaren Jackson Jr. was the betting favorite outside of Evan Mobley to win Defensive Player of the Year, and he just got moved to a team that's 20 games under 500.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. All right. If this is any indication, trade deadline is going to be crazy. And we are going to go now,
Wow.
okay? We're going to be back tomorrow.
Wow.
In about 24 hours. We're going to be back
I like
here.
that this got in under the wire.
This is perfect.
This is
no,
fun.
this is perfect. The fact that we had something real happen. We're going to break this down on the show tomorrow. We'll end up talking with, I'm sure, some other NBA experts as well
God.
to try to discuss what the deal is here. I find it interesting that Memphis has this surplus of draft picks because maybe now they end up attaching one to Ja to get off of that money, but that's a conversation for a later time. Maybe a conversation that we get into about 24 hours from now. We're going to go live again around this time, maybe 12:30 tomorrow. We'll let you guys know on Twitter when we're going to go live. Maybe on Instagram as well. This is really interesting. We're going to have some more people joining us tomorrow. Jonathan Zazzle will be here with us. We'll continue to talk Giannis if that move isn't made as of yet, whether that ends up being the Heat package or elsewhere. We'll continue to dive into it. When we see reports coming out from Shams and Mark Stein and Jake Fisher and all these folks, we'll break it all down. Maybe James Harden is a Cleveland Cavalier by then. Maybe Anthony Davis is. Maybe... Who knows now? I didn't expect Jaren Jackson Jr. to be traded. We'll have all of it tomorrow, and then we'll have a full trade deadline show coming at you guys on Thursday. No, I'm not wearing a hairpiece.
Later.
See ya.